So if you're a business owner today, are you facing one of these three problems? The first one is your revenue up, but you seem like you have less and less time for yourself and your family. Number two, are you the bottleneck where everyone in your company is coming to you for approvals or getting the green light for them to go ahead on certain projects? Number three, ask yourself, when is the last time you actually took a vacation without your laptop? So in today's video, I'll be sharing how you can scale your business by building better systems and buying back the much needed time that you need. I lead a team at Property Lim Brothers. We do real estate, we do media and tech as well. Actually, when you run a company, right, no matter what industry you're in, technically it falls to these four things. Revenue. When you have a business where somebody is willing to put their first dollar on the table, that is when you technically have a business. Anything else is a good idea. So when you put money on the table, more people put money on the table, your revenue goes up. When your revenue goes up, there's going to be more orders to fulfill, right? Whether you develop a service, you need to send out luggages, or you send out any product, there's going to be someone that needs to fulfill those orders. There's also going to be more inquiries coming in, sometimes some complaints you got to handle, customer service and all that. That means that as your revenue kind of goes up, it is normal that you as a founder, I'm assuming everybody here, let's say, owns a business, your time is going to go down. If you don't have a team that works for you, let's say you're a one-man entrepreneur, this is going to happen. And how do we then solve this? Very simple. It's usually we hire people and we get the people to follow some instructions, right? We build out SOPs, workflows, something like that, right? And this kind of goes in a cycle because once you do that, when your business is thriving, you notice you have not enough time, right? Like one of my students was sharing with me, my coaching students, she finally managed to go for a trip after 3 years after she started her business. It was because she could now have a system that allows her to do this, like to put down, go for a 1 week trip. It wasn't even like a month or anything, just 7 days. And this kind of goes in a cycle actually if you think about it, all of us business owners, right? When we hire people, we build systems, now we got more costs, right? OPEX, overheads. It means you got to drive up revenue, if not, it doesn't make sense. And then we drive up revenue again, this kind of, no time again, right? Build a team even bigger, and then it just keeps going in. So this is actually how a business ecosystem kind of runs. I mean, this is non-exhaustive. I mean, of course, your business can go even bigger than 10 million. The question is, when is it a good time to start building a team? Right? Should you build it once you have your first dollar? Should you build it when you have 500K revenue? Or maybe when I hit 1 mil revenue? Like, what is that? Is there a formula to this? Let's have a look. So when we talk about those two things, people and systems, there's a little bit like a factory actually. All of us run a little bit of like a factory, even though it's not a physical factory. When we build systems, right, you write down an SOP or you record something, ask your staff to do it, right? Who needs to do that thing? The people need to do it, right? So these two always come as a pair. You can't just build this. Okay, maybe with AI, this one, we can solve some of these things, right? But you still need the people to prompt the AI. One of the most common questions I get is, how do we attract the right talent? Who wants to hire like A players, right? We all want to hire good people, right, in our team to build businesses. I think the thing is, the question also comes to, how do you then attract these A players? How do you differentiate your brand, your organization, your company, such that the A players are attracted to you? If you look at this, I'll skip forward a little bit. Actually, in the world or in any business environment, there are two kinds of businesses. Let's just keep it simple. The big MNCs means they are usually in the millions, 10 million and above. SMEs are, I would say, most of us here maybe are SME owners. Usually, why does someone, let's say you want an A player to join you, why should he or she choose you? Are you giving them reason? So let's look at this breakdown, right? I mean, in SME, usually everybody knows everybody, right? You kind of know who is in the company, right? But in MNC, maybe after you work there for 5 years, you don't know you've never met your CEO before. You've never met the head of the other department before, right? So it's so large. And the teams usually, they sort of have this family, close-knit kind of environment, right? Everybody kind of does everything, eat at the same table, and so on, go out and tap out food together, that kind of stuff, right? But what is it truly that will allow this A player person, that means this person is so good, but you want him to join your company? Are you creating an environment that allows this person, that reason to come aboard? If not, then why is he forsaking all the dental benefits, your insurance, healthcare, and all that to come to your company? Right? Then we come back to this. How are we then differentiating ourselves? I mean, this differentiation has so many different things. The ones in yellow relate to human beings, people in your company. Are you hiring different? And also, this labeling your employees is also another thing. For example, all of our companies got an admin person, right? Why you all must call the person an admin person? Are you sure she only does admin work? Okay, so I use an example of a very, let's say any organization, right? You have somebody at the front desk. This person's role, right? Is it truly admin work? Or is this person's role like to greet your, let's say you have a guest, another or a partner that you want to collab with coming to your office. Is this person supposed to introduce the company, say hi, get them seated, get them coffee, make them comfortable? Like, is it to create a customer experience coming to your company? Or is it just admin, right? So sometimes how we label our employees will let them kind of think about what their role is actually in the company. Right? If you name someone as admin, then don't expect them to deliver great customer experience because you only tell her to do admin work. What? So even labeling the employees, like why can't you call them client experience, client care? Just a small tweak on their labels actually will also shift their mindset. Because as a human being, if I'm told I'm an admin person or I'm not a good, let's say I'm young, right, as a kid, right? If I tell my daughter, you're not good in math, every day I tell her you're not good in math, I think she'll probably think that she's not good in math, right? So similarly, right, as employees or employers, are we labeling our employees in the correct fashion so that they have a positive kind of a look towards what they're doing? Okay, I won't touch on the other two today. Just want to talk about this. So I mean, Simon Sinek has written a lot of books on leadership, right? I think one of my favorite quotes from him is this thing that he talks about, what is your company's just cause? Like, why do you do what you do, right? Seems a bit fluffy, like why would I do? Of course, I want to earn money, why I want to build business. But what is it that is deeper that allows you to still want to do your business, even if today, let's say your business doesn't earn a dollar, right? Do you still want to do this thing? Are you creating good? One example, I mean, his quote, he says that people don't buy actually what you do. They buy the reason behind why you are doing it. I mean, all of us know this company, right? They have a very interesting brand vision statement, right? All of us know they don't talk anything about tech. There's nothing about design, UI, UX, or the iTunes store. It says they just want to make products, the best products on planet Earth, so that when we leave, it leaves the world a better place. Very simple. Yeah, it doesn't talk anything about tech. It leads on to then this thing about hiring. So the traditional way of hiring, so let's say you, in your team, right, I mean, all of us run businesses here. Sometimes one of your leaders or another teammate in the team will say, hey, I need to hire somebody. I need to hire a HR executive. Then my question will be, let's say your company has 10 people in the company versus a company that has 100 people today. Do you think the HR executive of a 10-man company and a 100-man company does the same thing? Maybe the 100-man company, they're doing policies, they're doing things that are like more large scale. But for a 10-man company, maybe this HR executive has to double the head. You need to do some admin work, need to do some finance work, right? Which is very normal for SMEs. If you just put a designation there, you hire based on designation, maybe you are not exactly hiring the right role or the right fit, right? Instead, typically I would suggest is to do this thing called a goal-based hiring. That means you first define what goals this person have to achieve within your company. So for example, if this person's goal is to increase sign-ups and increase client retention, that is very clear. That means you start off with what are they going to do to help your company? What is the goal of this person? If the person doesn't have a goal, right, why are you hiring this person? And from defining that goal, then you can define what are the roles, certain actions that they will do day to day. Oh, okay, she'll collect payment, she'll onboard the new client, she's going to handle new leads and queries. And then eventually you put a designation. But this is the least important actually. The only reason why this is important is when you put on search portals, because the normal, let's say a candidate, right, they would search for this thing. And that's the only reason why I think this has to be defined in a certain way. But actually, as a business owner's point of view, right, this is more important because you don't know what this person is going to come in and do. It's going to give you a lot of clarity when you have the interview. You're going to be able to tell the person what exactly he or she is going to do on a day-to-day basis, right? What kind of, let's say we go a bit deeper, right? Do you even have a goal for this person to really set up? Let's say it's to increase signups. By how many? What is the conversion rate this person is supposed to hit? If let's say he's supposed to maybe increase number of client renewals, how many renewals is this person supposed to have, right? So you are very clear, another word for this is KPIs, if you want to use it. It's also KPIs. Basically, you hire so that this person hits KPIs. In fact, on a monthly basis, when you do performance review, right, you just need to take out this sheet. That's why there's a scorecard here. The person just need to fill up how many conversions do you have this month, new retention rate or renewal rates, and you will know whether this person is performing or not. If this person is not performing, then either you got to have a PIP, you got to have a chat with this person. If after 3 months this person still doesn't perform, do you still want to keep this person on the team? Because it's very clear he's not performing his or her role. Okay, fast forward a little bit. Action plan basically it leads to this. So if let's say you see there's category A is right, new signups, category B is new client renewals. how do you then link certain things that they do on a day-to-day basis? This is what they got to do. That's why it's called an action plan, right? So every action that they do, is it linked to a certain goal he or she has? Because if not, then why is he doing this daily thing or weekly kind of a thing? So these two work hand in hand, and it gives you a very clear operating system actually to operate your company, especially if you start growing to 10, 20, 50 people. It's impossible to kind of ask the person every day, what are you doing? You need to have something to look at that tells you very clearly how the company is moving ahead. Okay, this other question. Meetings. Who likes meetings here? Who likes to have meetings with the team? But I need to meet the team or not? Do we need to meet our teams? Probably yes, I just feel head shaking, right? Then the question is, I get asked very often is, how often should a team meet? What do y'all think? Anybody can just shout out answers. How often should you meet your teams? Let's say you have a marketing team, you have a finance team, etc. Yeah. How often should they meet? How should you meet them? Monthly? Okay. Any other guesses? Can just shout out. Anybody says weekly? Weekly? Okay. Okay. So actually there's no right or wrong answer. It's this thing. It's math actually. If you meet a team on a quarterly basis every 3 months, it means you meet them 4 times in a year. Okay, this is based on an annual basis. You meet them monthly, means you got 12. You meet them 12 times in a year. Weekly, 52 times. Daily, 261 times. That's Saturday, Sunday, unless they work 7 days a week. Essentially what this means, right, is that when you really decide whether you should meet a team more often or less often, I think it's also to decide how many opportunities are you going to have to tweak and improve something. Because when you meet somebody, when you meet your team, it's not just for the purpose of reporting stats. It's so that you can tweak things to make things happen, right? Improve something if something is not doing well. Shut down something if it's really not doing well for the last 3 months. And if let's say you have an event coming up in the next 1 month, like a convention event, for example. I heard somebody runs events, right? It's very urgent one. It's the deadline. Sometimes you can even meet twice a day if it's necessary. So actually there's no right or wrong answer. It's really dependent on how many opportunities do you want to have to improve your business. Yeah. So sometimes when my team tells me, Mark, when we meet weekly, a lot of time wasted, I cannot do my work. Then I'll ask them, sure. I mean, we can meet monthly as well, but then we only have 12 opportunities to tweak stuff. Are you okay with that? And then they'll tell me, okay, maybe not. You maybe make more. Sometimes right? So it really boils down to how many opportunities do you want, right? The more often you meet, technically you have more opportunities to improve your business going forward. Okay, so we are talking about a lot of people stuff. Now it's about how we're going to maximize capabilities. So I have this simple framework that I adopt. I just wanted to share with everybody. So my sharing is a little bit more framework driven one because I'm an operations person, right? A lot of systems. You all can adopt, I think if it's helpful. This is called the art of delegation. 3 things only, very simple. Okay, framework number 1 is this thing called 80% done. It's a mindset thing. Because sometimes as new entrepreneurs, right, or business owners, we do something that we do very well. That's why we start a business on it, right? And then we expect the next hire that we have, right, to be a photocopy of us. True or not? Like if I do it this way, please follow me and do it this way. Must do it exactly to the T. But then that becomes the bottleneck. Because if you ask yourself and touch your heart, right, do you think there's any human being on the planet that can do exactly what you do 100%? Maybe have very little. So I think that the earlier we recognize this fact, that means 80% done by someone else is actually better than 100% done by you. And it's also math. So I'm a very math person. If you only have one of you, you got to put in 100% to do that task. But if you just have to train 5 people that can achieve 80% of what you do, technically you have 400% productivity without you being in the picture. Probably the only thing you need to do is to train them well, right? Simple math. So that's number 1. So the earlier we recognize this fact, the earlier we'll be able to, especially for those of us who are DISC, right? The very C type. You know what I see? The conscientious type. Very detailed, very perfectionist. Nothing wrong. It's just that this becomes a stumbling block when you're trying to grow the team, right? So 80% done, mindset. Second thing is called the 10-80-10. A lot of numbers, right? Like math lesson. Okay, very simple. 3 steps only. Yeah. First one, 10%. Okay, when you hire a teammate, do you want to handhold this teammate all the way? No, right? Then what you want to hire this person for, right? So instead of that, why don't we apply this thing called a 10-80-10? Okay, so what this means is you spend 10% of your time briefing the teammate and declaring a very clear, okay, DOD stands for definition of done. Okay, I give a simple example. Let's say you need to install a whiteboard in the meeting room. So I'll tell my maybe like office manager, hey, can you install, buy a new whiteboard, install in the meeting room A. Is it clear? Instruction. Clear, right? Clear, okay. But actually what I wanted, right, was I wanted her to buy the whiteboard, set it up in the meeting room so that everybody can see it, and ensure that there's 4 colored markers with a duster that's ready, so I can go in and use the room immediately. But actually it's the same thing. But if I didn't tell them that means I didn't tell them the visual picture of what actually it looks like. Later on when she puts the whiteboard, I will say, hey, office manager, where's the markers? Where's the duster? Then what happens? She will take another 1 day to go and buy the thing or go and look for it, right? So it wastes a lot of time. So actually, it's actually our fault as business owners or leaders if we don't brief in a very detailed and clear manner. It's going to cause a lot more back and forth. So if you have briefed well, the team can then head on to execute the task, right? So some of the, some of the business owners I speak to, they will tell me, but it's impossible. I cannot just brief and let them do it all the way, right? So this is a transitional thing. That means at the start, it might look like 40, 50, 10. But your goal is to get them to 80 so that you're only involved at the starting 10. Once they've done it, even the checking and the final drafts and all that, right? They will reach a stage where you only look at final draft of a project and then you can apply whatever that you need to kind of apply to tweak certain things before it launch, right? So just by applying this simple framework, actually you'll be able to buy back a lot of your time. This thing called the 10-80-10. The last one, another number, 131. How many of us have an employee that will come and ask you, hey boss, this thing, how to do? I got this problem. Very common, right? What happens then? We'll tell them what to do. Actually, when we tell them what to do, in the long run, right, imagine you have 50 people now. Every day they just come and ask you, hey Sky, boss, how got this problem? Boss, got this problem. Times 50. And a day, do you need to do your work? Do you need to do any other thing besides answering their problem? Probably, you won't have enough time to do things. What it is actually, when they come to you with a problem, you're going to ask them a question on what actually is this problem. Sometimes they come to you with a list of things. They'll explain the scenario. They'll tell you, person A did this, person B did this, or that thing said that. Very common. But what is actually the key problem? Are you identifying what the real problem is? Only because after you have identified this, okay, then great. Now this is the problem, right? Okay, can you go and find out what are 3 solutions? I'm not going to give you an answer. I want you to go and find out what's the 3 solutions. Then you might think, well, but if this thing is very urgent, how? So we need to apply some level of this word that we like to use called sing mok. I don't know, you know what sing mok is? Stay woke. Yeah, basically like street smart a little bit, stay woke, right? Understand what's kind of going on. Of course, you need to apply this in the right situations. But what happens is, if you do this and treat this as a training for your team, eventually, right, when they come back with that one solution, if they do this long enough, because the important thing about step 2, which is to come back with the 3 solutions, is they must research and tell you why is it good and why is it bad. They cannot just tell you, oh, I think can do A, B, and C. When you ask them why, if they cannot answer, it means they haven't looked into it. They need to train their thought process on solving, of resourcefulness, right? The eventual goal is, let's say if you do this for a good 3 months, the teammate, right, or this person, eventually they don't even need to come to you with the one solution. They can even solve the thing on their own already. That's the ideal goal. And then what happens? You don't have to answer to 50 people coming to you, boss, what's your problem? Because of this, they start to own their problems better and kind of do the work better because it's something that they came up with on their own. Especially if you have a growing team and you have a lot of processes based, right? I think one of the quickest way that I learned from this gentleman here, his name is Dan Martell. He runs SaaS companies. Basically, all of us, if you're using an iPhone, an iPad, or even an iMac, you can always screen record. If let's say you have a new task that you want to hand over, what he says is, why don't you just screen record yourself doing that task? You can voice over it, and then send it to the teammate that you want to take over this. Yes. And not just that, the key thing is, the person needs to then craft the SOP. Because by crafting this, and when you look at it, you will know whether this person understands exactly what needs to be done, right? So the crafting is not done by you. You just need to do it once. And the requirement is this: if you see yourself doing this similar task, repeat again in the future, you need to do this. Very simple requirement. So if you see that, you should do this. Or you can teach this if you have leaders in your team and they are delegating work, right? And if you find it's very tough to delegate, why don't we try this? It's actually a very simple method. And I think, with the Zoom thing, especially if you're doing client calls, sometimes if, let's say you are the founder and you're always the one pitching, right? And you want to train up your next BD or business development executive, that's one great way that they can learn your lingo on how you speak, how do you handle objections, without you having to sit down with the person to kind of redo it the same thing that you just did in a live situation. I mean, with onset of AI, recording, the summary and all that, this becomes a lot easier. Yeah. So I think one of the things about meetings is, when we talk about having meetings, right? The biggest fear is when you walk out of that meeting room. I don't know if it's true for y'all. My biggest fear is after we spend 1 hour in that meeting room with 5 people, that means 5 of my staff spend 5 hours in that room. We walk out with them not knowing what to do next. That's the worst thing that can happen. Right? So how do you summarize a meeting? Right? Actually, it's very simple. So I mean, agenda is very simple. I'm not going to go deep, right? Just come out, make sure we kind of list down what we're going to discuss in the meeting. We go in, we discuss it. Last time is, the old method is we have a teammate that will take minutes. But now there's all these read AI, I mean, Google Meet has Gemini AI and all this kind of stuff, right? You can just turn on just press the button like Sky mentioned. But the most important thing is this thing called an action plan. Earlier on we heard the action plan, right? So the action plan is used in many different circumstances. One is meetings. It's basically a 3W kind of a table. It just lists down what is the thing that needs to be done next, who owns that thing, and when is it due. So as the boss of the company, the next meeting, let's say you're going to meet your tech team again, right? You just have to bring this up, update on the status, and nobody gets lost in translation, right? So that 1 hour is very well spent. We can just do this for actually every meeting that you have should have a action plan that kind of comes out of it. If not, why are you having that meeting? It's not a bonding session, right? That's the last thing you want. It's supposed to be taking action, right? Going forward. Not bonding session. Bonding session we leave for another time. I skipped past this slide, but basically this is like it's basically the operating manual. I mean, not everything is here, but most of the things I think that operate a company are listed over here. I mean, some of the stuff I talked about to kind of ensure the company runs well. It's basically like an operating manual for a business, and it can be applied in, I think, any form of business actually. So if you're still here, here's what I'm going to do. I'm offering you a free discovery call. If you scroll down and click the link below, you can book a 45-minute strategy session with me. We're going to deep dive into understanding what are the key challenges you're facing today in your business, and we're going to iron out and draw a blueprint on how you can then make progress and scale your business with better systems. So see you on the call.